of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll love this.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend / my co-host, Devin. And today we're here to give our spoiler-free thoughts on House of the Dragon Episode 3. We're not going to give away the title because, again, this is a spoiler-free episode. We're just here to give our initial reactions and our final thoughts about the episode. So we will not be going into any story details for Episode 3, but we will be getting into spoilers for Episode 2 and Episode 1 if you have not seen those as of yet. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X, or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie related questions. Devin, Devin, how you been, man? We're finally here. It's a Friday. The weekend has begun. We watched some Hot D. Episode 3, we're feeling good. We're feeling fancy. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. It's kind of weird that we're in 2022 and Twitter has turned into Footloose. No dancing allowed, just based on the She-Hulk coverage we've been seeing lately. But yeah, it's been good. Yeah,
it's definitely been good, man. It's in a way. I mean, I also saw that we might be getting a edit button in Twitter finally. I mean, hopefully we will be. It would be pretty nice. I'm just saying, it's very annoying to make a big announcement on Twitter, no matter what outlet or, whatever you do for a living, for whatever your followers follow you for. And it's like, oh crap, I forgot that one small little thing. I mean, I think it's nice to have an edit button. Hopefully it'll be everything we've ever hoped for.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So as I mentioned before, this is going to be our spoiler-free episode for Episode 3 of House of the Dragon, aka Hot D. Like I said before, if you have not seen Episode 2 or Episode 1 yet, we will be giving away plot points for those. But before we begin, we'd like to thank HBO Max yet again for allowing us to cover this early for you guys, just a few days ahead of time, so we can kind of prepare you for the events ahead of what's to come in this episode. So, Devin, are you ready to get into our review of Episode 3 of Hot D?
Hot D Friday.
Hot D Friday, that's right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this introduction to House of the Dragon, Episode 3.
The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. We are better defended.
Against whom?
Whomever may dare to challenge us. The threat of war looms. The gods have yet to make a man who lacks the patience for absolute power, Your Grace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back again. We're going to be talking some Hot D Episode 3. Very, very excited to get this started for you guys. Honestly, if there's anything, I was very impressed by this episode. If we were allowed to cuss on this thing, I would say hot damn. That's all I got to say. Instead of Hot D, definitely hot damn. Those would be my only two cussing for this episode. So the way this is going to go down, of course, we're going to get into our initial reactions first, then we're going to get into our final thoughts, and then we're going to just kind of close out for you guys. Like I said, we don't want to give any ratings away for this episode. We just want to give our initial reactions and let the events unfold. We want you guys to be surprised as much as we were watching this for the first time. So I'm going to give my initial reactions first, and then we're going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his. So as far as mine goes, really, really quick, this is another time jump between episode 2 and episode 3, 2 years to be exact, and events are unfolding. There is a lot of bickering between Rhaenyra and her father, Viserys, and there's just a lot of tension in the air due to the king's past decisions when it came to, of course, everything that happened with Queen Emma, and then him deciding to take on a new wife, aka Alicent Hightower, at the end of episode 2. So you definitely get to see a lot of bickering and just good old fashioned family feuding going on within this episode. It feels like this episode is kind of split into two because there are two storylines that kind of intertwine within each other. It starts with one, then it jumps to another, and then it kind of finishes out with the first storyline that is introduced. I guess you can say the A story and the B story, so to speak. But yeah, again, when it comes to Millie Alcock and the rest of the cast, I mean, even Paddy Considine, there's so many, they have this great chemistry that really just hits home. And I really just enjoyed just the dialogue, just the interactions between, father and daughter. And then, of course, we have the new wife, AKA / the best friend. So there's a lot of animosity, I guess you could say, a lot of resentment happening. And Rhaenyra and Viserys have not been talking a lot lately, and that starts to kind of build up, and you just see a lot of events unfold. Of course, Matt Smith is also in this episode as well, and he just brings it all over again. Like, honestly, everyone in this entire cast just brings their A game, and it's just another home run of an episode. So before I go on a tangent, I'm going to pass it over to Devin so we can give his initial thoughts on episode 3 of House of the Dragon.
Yeah, we had some classic teenage drama going on in the first half of the episode. Just a dad that doesn't know how to handle a teenager. This is just kind of amplified because they are royalty. But yeah, I agree with what you said. It's kind of a story of two halves here. The first half, just a lot of dialogue and setting up storylines between characters, setting up some drama for down the line, different things like that. And then the second half, a lot more action than the last episode, which was good to end on here. Can't go into any details, but Daemon is he's becoming like a silent assassin out there. Like he's not talking as much, but he's putting in the work. He's shown that he can get things done, even if without using his words. I will say one major concern I have for the series in general is the time jumps, like you mentioned. We can't go into too many details, but sometimes it's a bit jarring, and it feels like you may have missed something. Like if I were watching this, like if I were binging this, I probably would have went back to make sure I didn't skip an episode, because it's like, whoa, did I miss something? Because it feels like there is probably some story that was missed in the time jump, but they chose to just kind of move forward a little bit and get the story moving. It's just, I'm worried it could be a bit fast and it could be a bit just jarring for people. But I'm not sure. We'll see how it ends up, especially with the new actresses that come in eventually, Olivia, Cooke, and Emma Darcy. We'll see how that goes.
I think that is a really good point, Devin, especially for new fans who are not familiar with the world of Westeros. They may wonder, like you said, if they skipped an episode. I don't know if everyone knows that there is a time jump. I think that they've done a pretty good job of showing like the newer and older versions of some of these characters. Some of these characters we've already seen age up a little bit as well. But that is a very good point. Something I've never really thought of myself. Just because I guess Fire and Blood, the book, is like it is written kind of like a history book, like I mentioned before, but there does seem to be a lot of things that happen off screen, because it's like, okay, the events happen here, then we're going to go a little bit farther into the future. I feel as the farther we get into the story, the time jumps will start like closing gaps, because I feel like they're trying to get to a certain point where these characters are, of a certain age, are, fully grown and like realized adults, as they take on these, these positions between lords and ladies and all these other crazy positions within Westeros. But that is a very good analogy, and I think that's a very good point.
I would also be worried if they start going like back and forth between the jumps, because that's when things start to get messy.
So at least with this series, you know, they kind of make it a point to tell you, hey, like these small little like snippets of dialogue that say, oh, you know, they kind of give it away. Like it's been such and such, you know, since the events of whatever, not like a title card type of thing. I think that's silly, but I think that is a really good point that you made there. So we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, you know, the time jumps do kind of slow down as they get older. I think they're just trying to get up to a certain point because they're kind of like focusing on the major events that are happening, or at least filling in the blanks of the things that happen within the book. But that is a good point there. I really do. I think, I hope that doesn't really hinder the show. I don't think it will, but unfortunately we did hear the unfortunate news of one of the showrunners leaving. He will not be returning for season 2, which got announced last week. Very, very unfortunate, but you know, we'll just have to kind of wait and see how things fold out. So let's get into our final thoughts here. Did you have any that you wanted to throw my way before we close on out here?
Yeah, it's hard to get into too much detail, obviously, without spoiling anything. But yeah, I'm very interested to see where we go from here, because it feels like kind of an end of an era and maybe the beginning of something new here.
Yeah, it feels as if, even though we've seen Rhaenyra and Alicent, you know, in their younger days, and they are a little bit older, you know, as the series goes on, but I'm wondering when they are going to make that time flip. I think it's going to be within one episode, they're going to make the time jump from when they're younger to older, so that people aren't just like, oh, well, Millie Alcock was playing, you know, Rhaenyra last week, and now there's this random other person who's playing her this week. So I feel like they're going to make that transition within a episode. I just don't know which one it's going to be. My assumption is episode 5, just because there's 10 episodes and that's kind of like the turning point for everything. So I wonder if they're going to kind of make that time jump there. But yeah, I mean, just great performances overall for this episode. It's another juicy episode. That's all I can say. It's, my gosh, it never really ceases to amaze me. And now Game of Thrones is a little bit of competition with Lord of the Rings. I hear that's fantastic as well. I have to start watching that. But honestly, you're winning either way if you're a fantasy fan, because I mean, you can assume both of these and just enjoy them both for what they are. One doesn't necessarily have to be better than the other. I mean, it's never a competition. I'm just happy that we're getting some amazing high quality fantasy TV, no matter where it comes from, whether it's HBO or Amazon Video. So
I'm still shocked Amazon decided to release simultaneously. It just feels so weird to have them at the same time.
Yeah, it feels a little weird. But of course, as we've learned, HBO, again, actually want to throw this out there. If you are hesitant on Game of Thrones, or excuse me, House of the Dragon, the first episode is available on the HBO Max YouTube channel for free. So you can go watch it. If you love it, you know, subscribe to HBO Max, you know, or watch it televised as well. So I think that's a really nice marketing play as well, but I don't feel like one needs to necessarily like up the other. I feel like they can both coexist, because honestly, it's just great TV all around. We're in the golden age of fantasy TV right now. This is crazy. Got Game of Thrones on Sundays, Lord of the Rings on Fridays. Honestly, I cannot ask for anything better. So with all that said, that concludes our episode 3 review of House of the Dragon. Of course, like I said before, this is spoiler free. We're going to be giving you guys coverage every single week, which is also going to be spoiler free for every single episode for House of the Dragon moving forward. So yeah, I'm just very excited for people to get their hands on this episode. Very excited to, you know, listen to a few other podcasts and their takes and kind of just watch the glory unfold. So if you liked what you've heard on today's episode, please, please, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice, and make sure to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. Really quick, of course, by the time this is out, our She-Hulk episode 3 review will be out for you guys. We're going to be covering that again on a weekly basis. It seems to be the main focus right now is House of the Dragons and She-Hulk. But if you guys are looking for something else to look forward to, we will be covering Rogue One, a Star Wars story, prior to Andor's release that drops September 23rd. And also, if you want to check out our Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 2 Earth review, our series revisited, where I was joined by a few amazing guests talking about that. We do have our Book 3 review coming up later in September. I believe we're going to try to cover The Woman King. Really just depends. There's just so much coming out right now, but definitely follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Film Optix. Again, that's Optix with an X, to kind of keep up with all that jazz. So with all that said, we hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.